From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your MTN Statewide News this Monday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, this morning, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany tweeted that she, too, has now tested positive for COVID-19. President Trump's doctors say the president could be released from the hospital as early as today. Natalie Brand has more details from outside Walter Reed Medical Center.
President Trump sent a flurry of tweets this morning from the presidential suite at Walter Reed. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows told Fox News the president could be discharged as early as today.
The president, in consultation with the doctors, will make a decision on whether to discharge him later today.
But questions remain about the president's condition. The president's doctors now acknowledge he had a high fever on Friday and say his oxygen levels dropped twice. We've also learned the president has been given the steroid dexamethasone in addition to remdesivir and an experimental antibody cocktail.
The question is his disease much more severe than is being described? Because there's a discrepancy between the potency of the drugs and what's going on.
The White House is also facing backlash after the president left his hospital suite Sunday evening to drive by supporters who have taken up vigil outside Walter Reed. Administration officials say the president's doctors approved the trip where he was seen wearing a mask, but health experts say he risked exposing his security detail to the virus.
Leaving a hospital, going into a car with other people, is not being quarantined, and certainly it is putting people at risk.
Prior to that trip, the president released another video where he says he now understands the coronavirus.
It's been a very interesting journey. I learned a lot about COVID.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, who was not wearing a mask when she briefed reporters Sunday evening, says she tested positive for the coronavirus today. She joins the growing list of people either close to the president or who attended the ceremony for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett, who have since tested positive. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Bethesda, Maryland.
And Vice President Mike Pence tested negative again this morning. He is still planning to attend Wednesday's vice presidential debate against Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. Well, all 56 Montana counties now have confirmed coronavirus cases. The last to add, Petroleum County, which now has 1. There are also 4 new deaths to report this noon, 1 victim in each Bighorn, Cascade, Glacier, and Pend Oreille counties. That's a total of 195 deaths across Montana. The state reports 212 new confirmed cases across the state. Yellowstone County with the highest count today at 34. Total active cases is just under 5,000. More than 10,000 Montanans have recovered. The total number of tests around the state has now reached 36,000. Now, there were multiple days last week that Montana health officials reported record highs in the new case numbers. Dr. Nancy Snyderman is a Montana physician and former network medical correspondent. Now, she says she's concerned with the state's hospitals will soon feel the strain of a growing number of patients. Dr. Snyderman also believes Montanans need to get their flu shot, saying COVID-19 and the flu are not a good mix.
When those two crash together, we may see more than the 30, 40, or 50,000 people who die annually just from the flu collide with what may be hundreds of thousands of people getting terminally ill with coronavirus.
Snyderman says even after the record-breaking week, she's confident Montanans will begin to flatten the curve. Well, 1 man is dead as police investigate a shooting in Central Billings that all of a sudden started as a fight between neighbors over dogs. The victim was shot in the head just before 8 o'clock last night on the 1300 block of Custer Avenue. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say an argument over the dogs escalated when the victim left the suspect's home and came back. Officers believe there may have been a struggle because the suspect had scratches on his head. He is in custody and cooperating with that investigation. The names of the 2 men involved and any possible charges have not been released. Officers also found the victim was armed with a gun. A massive wildfire that sparked in the Helena Lewis and Clark Forest over the weekend has now burned more than 3,000 acres. The Yogo fire, first reported Saturday in the Little Belt Mountains, grew significantly over 24 hours due to dry conditions, high winds, and steep slopes. Now, visitors were evacuated on Sunday, and firefighters are asking residents now to steer clear of that area. The cause of the fire is still unknown. And joining us now, meteorologist Ed McIntosh, and that fire is making a huge mess out of our skies.
It is, especially in southern and eastern Montana. Here's where the fire is, right about the midsection of the state, and you can see the flames are being moved around by the stronger winds, and then the upper level winds pushing a lot of the smoke into especially south central and southeastern Montana. So as we take it through time, we'll continue to watch that fire produce bands of smoke across the eastern plains off and on throughout the week. By the time we start looking closer towards the weekend, we'll flatten out our ridge of high pressure and start to pick up a little additional smoke from the out-of-state wildfires as well. At this point, for the most part, air quality is good to moderate across the state, a few exceptions in southeast Montana. Forecast details coming up.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, a new art exhibit in downtown Billings is putting a spotlight on the missing murdered Indigenous women's movement. Red dresses will hang around Sky Point for the next 2 weeks. The empty dresses represent Native American women who are no longer with us. It's the work of Canadian artist Jamie Black, who was recruited by the Montana Native Women's Coalition and the local Zonta Club. Now, the groups behind the art exhibit are inviting everyone to a virtual gathering next Saturday in lieu of an MMIW march. To learn how to sign up, visit billingzonta.org. We have more news ahead on your noon news, including a story about paddleheads and how they put their heads together to keep their season afloat. But first, meteorologist Ed McIntosh is in next with your statewide weather forecast. Don't go away.